Raw Lift is back, baby. I'm Eric Vaughn, our Kenra Color's artistic director, and I am excited to show you guys this lived-in Raw Lift blonde transformation. We have Beyond Bond Lightener, you guys. That is up to 9 levels of lift. So you can achieve these gorgeous raw lifts because overtoned hair is out. I'm gonna show you guys this step by step, so let's get started. Okay, so we already have her pre-sectioned out, and I wanted to talk you guys through what my sectioning is. It's really important when I'm working on the top section of the head to make sure I hit everything that could fall all the way around. A lot of the times when we're working in color, we kind of split from like the top of the head to the ears, and you end up with this like dual hair color where you're working in one pattern up the back and then the front has a separate pattern. So what I like to do is I like to find wherever their little like calic, whorl, growth pattern, whatever it is, I like to go directly scoop right underneath it and then come into my recession to get my top section. That ensures when this entire section falls over, the entire top section of her head has the same pattern. Really important for me because again, that keeps me grounded. So whatever I do in here can be different from what I do up here, and it can still look really beautiful and cohesive. Now I have just split her right behind her ears, so that way I have my side sections as well. So we're gonna start in the back, and I wanna keep this like a very lived-in feel underneath. We're gonna go a little bit more high maintenance on top, but through her interior, I wanna keep this a little bit more lived in. So we're gonna be working in pretty large sections, and we're gonna work really, really quick. This placement can take me 25 to 30 minutes in the salon when I'm working at like my full speed. So I wanted to give you guys a full highlight placement that would be really fast and easy. She's got some like interior depth that I don't love because it feels like it's yellowed out quite a bit through here. I don't mind what's happening through here, so we'll kind of work with this, but really brighten this up quite a bit. And then we will add a couple little bright pops through the like high up in the interior as well. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to take my first diagonal back, and I'm taking a pretty large section. This is how I'm gonna move through this area really fast. Again, I'm wanting to keep a lot of depth through the interior here, especially close to the root, but I really wanna brighten this up. So when I go in to do my first tease, and I'm gonna be doing a pretty large tease, I'm gonna let some of those shorter pieces already fall out. I don't need these are already short, so I kinda wanna let them live as they are. It looks like she maybe had a teeny bit of breakage from her last highlight, so I wanna be really gentle around there. So I'm going almost all the way down to the ends. I'm letting some of those short hairs already slip out, and I'm giving that just like a good push up. Big thing that's really important for me is making sure that my teasing is clipped up and out of the way. So now I'm just gonna take a pretty bold weave, and I'm using my Beyond Bond Lightener with 10 volume. I don't need a like strong heavy lift because especially these areas that I'm painting right now, these are already pre-lightened ends. So probably by the time I finish applying my highlights, I will be pulling these out. So I'm using my 10 volume so I get a very, very gentle lift. Beyond Bond already has the protection in it that I need to be safe, but I did want to start with a low volume developer. So I'm painting in the heavy area where I really want to see the majority of my brightness, and then I start to paint up. Again, I really like the depth of what's happening here, so I'm not painting too high. I just want to get her ends feeling brighter so when she pulls her hair forward, you see this really bright connection to what's happening around her face. And because this is long hair, I am going to be laying my foils out flat. I don't want to fold it and create crease marks. I want to keep my product laying really nice and flat. Now for our next section, we'll be alternating between these large full teases and some little baby slice teases. So taking my second diagonal back, and instead of taking this whole section and teasing it, I'm gonna take a nice little slice right off the top. And I'm gonna let this be. I still like this as dimension. I just wanna brighten her up quite a bit. So I'm gonna give that a nice full tease, pushing all these shorty hairs up and clipping that into place. I'm gonna take this entire section and see how from that full tease, I'm able to get, I'm about half an inch from her scalp. But that full tease is gonna drop everything down and keep it really soft and blended. For this, I'm gonna paint up really high. This is gonna be my interior pop. This is what's gonna give her that added brightness, so when she curls her hair, you'll see this peek through really bright and pretty, but that full tease will keep it really soft and blended. Now, traditionally speaking, if I was doing this on a client in the salon, I would be bouncing from side to side. I would do my full tease on this side, full tease here, my slice tease here, my slice tease here. But for the ease of you guys being able to see for today, we're gonna work all on one side. But by doing each side together, if I then need to go and pull this foil out because it's ready to be rinsed or wiped off, this one is also ready and I can do it at the exact same time, and it keeps me really balanced and cohesive. But for the sake of you guys being able to see, we're just gonna work on one side. So now I'm going back in, taking my diagonal back. Now I'm going to take this whole section, give this a really good push up. Again, this foil is not about getting close to the scalp. This foil is about creating brightness through my mids and my ends. So now that I've got my tease, I take my chunky weave, give that a good push, and I'll clip the remnants of that tease out of the way so these little straggler pieces don't try to fall back in. And then I apply my product in the middle of the strand where I want to see the most brightness. I'll get my ends wrapped up. And again, these are those foils that as soon as I'm done, we'll probably be pulling and rinsing just because they're already on the lighter side. We don't want to let these just like sit forever. And that's really important when you're working behind the chair. If you're lightening already lightened ends, you need to be on them, watching, and making sure that you're not letting them overprocess. And now our last foil on this back side is going to be our baby slice right here at the top, giving that a nice push up. And then here, because she is a little bit more highlighted through this area, I'm gonna pick out my dark pieces, and I'm just highlighting these. And in this section, because her mid shaft is already pretty bright, I'm just going to feather this up, and I'm just going to like graze my lightener over those ends and use my board. This isn't a full thorough saturation of lightener, and I'm also not going to encapsulate those ends inside my foil. I'm just going to kind of like sweep the product down it so it gets a good like boost, but not a like crazy heavy lift. And now we've tackled this entire back side in 4 foils. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing on this other side, and we'll come back for her face frame. All right, so we finished up our back section, and now we're moving into our front hairline. I wanna make this bright, but lived in and soft for her. So we're gonna be doing a combination of scalp foiling and teases all along this hairline. And it's gonna be the same pattern for our hairline on this side, and for our face frame. I really like to keep what I do around the hairline really cohesive, but I really dislike when you see like something really super bold and then really soft, because when they pull their hair back into a ponytail, you can see that it's not cohesive all along their hairline. So I really love for it to feel really soft and cohesive. So what I'm gonna do first, I'm gonna take a very fine slice right off her hairline. And I'm gonna do a very, very fine, very soft baby weave. We'll probably end up doing like a hairline tap with something very light, just to ensure that it's really soft when she pulls her hair back. So this is going to be a scalp foil all the way across. And I'm using a little baby foil so they don't, I feel like the longer the foil is when you're scalp foiling around the hairline, you run the risk of that foil slipping. So I like to tear my foils really tiny. So that's our first. Now moving into our second foil. We're gonna do a very soft tease. This is what I call a flick, because it really is just a teeny tiny flick. You're pushing out the smallest of little hairs. Do our little baby weave. And I'm also gonna continue in with a tiny foil. And I'm just gonna push that teasing up and out of the way so I can get as close to the scalp as possible and still have that teeny tiny flick tease to create softness and blending for me. So our first one was that baby light to the scalp with no tease. Now we did our flick. Now I'm taking my third and I'm going to do more of a true tease. So getting into more of that like medium tease area. Baby weave. And now I'm going to start using my long foils again with my board. So I can get in there with a little bit more control, especially since I'm working on a longer strand now. Again, pushing all that tease up and out of the way. And she's already pretty bright here, so I'm really just retouching. Painting down on just this little warm piece here. So again, recapping, no tease, flick, more of like a true medium tease. Now what I'm going to do is connect to the back. I know that I was doing very large teases and little baby slices. So my first subsection is gonna be bigger, full tease, chunky weave, just like the first foil in the back. So now, let's say she wears a half up, half down. I wanna make sure that what's happening back here and here is fully connected. So full tease, chunky weave, feathering up towards her face, and I'm just grazing over those ends. I'm not doing crazy heavy saturation on those ends because they're already on the lighter side. I just want this to brighten up even more, but just very gently. So for those of you watching, if I did a full tease, that heavy tease with the chunky weave, what did I do after that in the back section? What was my next foil? I'm gonna say you guessed the right answer. You are correct. We did our slice with the tease. So again, connecting to what we did in the back. So now I'm taking my slice, giving that good tease, and I'm going to lighten this whole little slice, pushing that tease up and out of the way, and I'm going all the way up as close as I can. And so now my last section, full tease, chunky weave, and I'm gonna paint it just like I did the rest of the sections. So I'm gonna finish this one, do the exact same thing on the other side, and I'll see you back for her face frame. Okay, moving into our hairline. I've already split her hairline based off of her center part. She does a middle part majority of the time, but sometimes is a flip-flopper. So I wanna make sure when I do target her hairline, I cross all the way into her recessions, so that way no matter where she parts her hair, she's fully covered. That's a big one to remember. I think a lot of the times we just go based off of like a singular part line, but we don't think about the entire hairline as a whole. I also look always to see what is my stronger hairline, meaning like what is the closest thing to a straight line when I slice across here. So this side to me is not quite as straight across. So I'm gonna target this side first, then connect to that side. So picking up here, connecting exactly to what we did on her like side hairline. Take my slice all the way across. And my first foil on her side was just an itty bitty little baby light weave. And I'm going all the way across. Picking up some of her baby hairs, but also dropping some of her baby hairs out. And I'm still using my Beyond Bond Lightener with 10 volume, especially on this hairline. I wanna make sure that I use a lower volume developer. These hairs are already more, like they're finer, they're more fragile, so we wanna go lower on our developer. We'll bump our developer probably up to 20 when I get into her crown. But for this hairline, I definitely wanted to stick with my 10 volume. So just my little baby light weave all the way across. And I'm taking like diagonals to the recession. So it's almost like I'm kind of pieing this way. So it's gonna continue pieing this way as I move across. So I barely moved back from her part line, but I'm going much deeper towards the back. And this was my little baby flick, just like I did on that side hairline. Then I go through and do my baby weave. And because this is a little bit of a longer section of hair, I am gonna use my full-size foil here. I'm gonna go in and push all that teasing all the way up and out of my foil. And I'm gonna paint as close to the root as I can. I see 1, 2 little dark pieces, so I'm just gonna graze over those. So now as I continue my pieing back, again, barely moving back from my center part, but going even deeper now, her front part line all the way back to here. So I am almost at her ear now. So I'm covering a very large span. What this is going to give me when I'm done is a very like dainty little bright piece here into this really big burst of lightness around her cheekbones, which is what I think is really beautiful in the money piece right now. So picking this section up, and this is more of our medium tease. So we're getting that full tease in there. We're gonna go in and weave this out, push my tease out of my foil, and just gently grazing over those ends. Going back and really heavily saturating through the top. And I'm gonna place my foil directly on top. And then the last on this side, pushing even further back, we're gonna do that full tease. And for this one, I just wanna go in and weave out some of these darker pieces. Drop out some of those really bright blondies. This is gonna start to build us some depth right behind that money piece. Beautiful. And that is the last foil for how we target our hairline face frame money piece area. I'm gonna do the exact same thing on the other side, and then we'll come back and do our top section together because that's where everything is going to change. So we'll be back in just a second. All right, so now that we're on the top section, this is where we're gonna switch things up. We kind of have the freedom to do anything we want up here because again, we went below her whirl. So everything that's sitting here, if I turn her around, everything covers now, all on this top section. So we can kind of do anything that we want. This is the area where she's gotten the most heavy of her highlights. So you can almost see she has like a pretty sharp line of demarcation into very solid. We want to keep this like lived in vibe going. And in order to get this like really beautiful lived in vibe, we need to add some depth. So I'm going to be going in with a combination of highlights and lowlights. I did remix my lightener to be Beyond Bond with 20 volume. And for my lowlight, I'm doing 8N, 8B, and 8NA. I want to keep this relatively cool tone. She's got a pretty cool tone to her natural base. So I want to keep things kind of marrying and matching there. There is some warmth through this like middle section here, so I want to control that. But I also want it to be kind of this like neutral cool beige. So by combining all of those tones together, I'm going to get the control and the reflectiveness that I need to break some of this up. So the way that I'm going to break this up, I'm changing my pattern completely. So throw everything that we've already done out the window. This is where we get to have a little bit more fun and be a little more creative. We were creating this really like bright, beautiful lived in through the interior. So she doesn't have to get this touched up often. On this top section, I know I'm going to do a root tap on here. I love when root taps fade as hair grows out. It's my favorite when my clients like 3 months are like, oh my gosh, I love my color. It looks like I got my color touched up again because that root shadow has started to fade over time. And so now they've got these beautiful bright highlights peeking back out. So I'm gonna bring my highlights up a little bit higher than you would normally think for a lived-in look because we're gonna shadow that back down. So we're doing something completely different here. So I'm gonna go in on my side section here and I'm gonna take my first slice straight across. And this is going to be my first highlight. My weave for this highlight is not going to be a baby light. It's gonna be kind of like a textural weave to pick up some brightness. So it's not like, don't think chunky. This is just kind of more of like that medium tease. It's not a baby light, it's not chunky, it's somewhere in the middle. So we can see the reflectiveness and the brightness, but it's gonna give us high impact without like having to overwork. And I'm not looking for this to be like at the scalp, so I don't need to like worry about getting it all the way to the scalp. I'm just trying to get it pretty close. So that way when we shadow over it, it has a ton of softness, but it also has a little bit of her natural up towards the top. And I'm using my big wide foils so I can tackle this entire section at one time. This allows me to cover this entire top section really fast. So now for my low light, I'm gonna skim extremely close so there's hardly any room. I'm not taking a very large subsection. And for this, I am gonna do a little bit more of a baby light across the top. And when I place my foil in, I'm going to paint it at an angle. So when we do our root melts, we love to do like a horseshoe, almost like a kind of like a drop crown. We're gonna paint our low light in the same way. So I'm gonna start my low light in the deepest area where I want it. I'm gonna feather down towards the back so it's already creating that high to low effect. And then I'm just gonna feather this up. I don't need to go all the way up to the scalp because I love her natural color up here. We don't need to do anything with that. We're really just targeting this middle area. So I'm just kind of feathering this up and then just making sure this is really soft and pretty. And I'm just painting very soft. So for my low light, I'm gonna leave this laying flat. So I'm just going to take another sheet, place that right on top. And that's my highlight and my low light. And I'm gonna continue this all the way up to the part line, exactly the same. So again, going in with more of that kind of textural weave. Taking my low light again super close. And again, my low light is more of that baby weave. And we're just gonna continue this exact same pattern up this side and on the other side. Our placement is fully done. And now I wanted to come back in and check these foils because remember I said by the time I finish, we're probably gonna pull and wipe these. And that lift is perfect. So let's go ahead, and this is how I always kind of handle pulling and wiping, especially when I've got teasing. So I'll wipe all of the lightener off first. And then I like to brush my teasing out in the moment. So I'll kind of brush through my ends first. And this helps me to relieve that like teasing anxiety at the shampoo bowl. And look how gorgeous that blends in. So we've got some of her old lift existing really beautifully with that bright new pop through here. So you're just getting really soft accent of brightness. So we're gonna continue to let this process. We'll pull everything and then we'll meet you back to do our root tap. And now we're back with our raw lift. This is a stunning raw lift. I'm so happy with how she lifted around her face. Looks nice and bright. What I want you guys to see, I'm gonna have her look down. You can see those little like textural weaves that we put in that have just that little bit of that natural here. So now when I go and I root tap this, it's just gonna live so seamless and grow out so well. The other thing that I wanna show here is showing that combination of those highlights and lowlights. You can already see just this really beautiful like added depth through here, which is gonna make this look so much more soft and lived in and keep kind of our raw lift vibe going. So now I'm gonna go in and apply my root tap. I'm using from our Demi-Color, I'm using 8N and 8NA equal parts. I wanna make sure that I neutralize any warmth at the top of those highlights. And again, because her natural color has that like kind of ash tone to it. I want to make sure I marry that together. So before I even detangled her, I added in our Porosity Equalizer spray. This is amazing, not only for detangling the hair, especially after heavy lifting, but also this makes sure that your canvas is extremely balanced for when you're adding in your toners. As we all know, if porosity is off, things can happen. So by using this, you're gonna make sure that you have a perfect even canvas to put your Demi-Permanent on. We're only gonna be doing a root tap, no toner today. We're going for that raw lift, which is really on trend. So let's get started. And I like to separate out my sides. So I'm gonna get everything brushed into natural fall first. I like to work in my back as an entire quadrant first, then handle my sides and my hairline. And see how easily my brush is able to go through because of that Porosity Equalizing spray? It's a huge bonus behind the chair. So we're just gonna go through and tap in at her hairline. And then I'm gonna work in sections just straight across. And I'm not looking to do anything too crazy with this root tap. I just wanna marry everything together. So a section like this where I don't see anything that needs tapping, I just move on to my next section. And after a few sections, I'll clip everything up that I haven't worked on yet and do a good brush through. So again, I'm using the 8N and 8NA equal parts to give us that really beautiful control and also a balanced result. And I really like to brush that through to make sure that my root melt is very seamless, especially in a scenario where I'm not doing a gloss or a toner to kind of blend everything together. I want to make sure that everything is really well blended as I'm applying. And I'm not super stressed about pressing my root tap into her scalp at the root. We didn't highlight the back all the way up to the scalp, so I'm not super worried about trying to get in here. I'm more so wanting to make sure that I'm applying my product where her lines of demarcation are. So right here, she's got the line of demarcation from her previous color. I'm making sure that I'm grazing over and slightly past that. Take my brush. And even after I brush, I go back and I resaturate those sections. The brushing naturally pushes the product and thins it out. So I want to make sure it's on thick, exactly where I want that color to live. Now I'm starting to get up into the top of these textural weaves and see how already from that section that I did on top, I'm already hitting the back quadrant of her head. So that just goes to show that that sectioning, when you go below their whirl, will really cover everything that you need on top. All right, so now our entire back quadrant is thoroughly applied. I'm just gonna go through and brush all this through to make sure it's nice and soft. And now I'm gonna start working on my side. I like to work in vertical sections as I'm putting my root tap in. So I can lay this back over the section behind it and continue my root shadow. So I'll take my section, brush through to make sure everything is nice and smooth. And I'm gonna continue applying exactly like this up to the front hairline. And I am going to give her front hairline a soft tap. I wanna make sure, even when she pulls her hair back, I want her hairline to be really soft. So I will be root tapping everything. But if you've noticed, as I'm getting closer and closer to her face, I'm tapping less and less and less. So I'm not dragging it as far down as I was in the back and even in the crown. So it's the softest little baby tap now, right on that hairline. Just itty bitty little baby tap. Nothing super long, nothing super drawn out. So once I have this fully applied, I'll come back, take a slice, and drag everything forward. And I'll let that sit in front of her face so that way I can come back and brush through everything here. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing on the other side, and I will see you back for our end result. And here is our finished, lived in, raw blonde. I'm obsessed with the end result, and I hope you are too. The one thing I wanted to show you guys is if we look down, look how soft and seamless that is. Just by leaving that tiny bit of her natural regrowth at the top of those highlights, after we shadowed it down, it looks so seamless and natural. This is gonna have a really beautiful grow out for her too. So this is gonna be a really great low maintenance lived in vibe. Again, just to recap, we used our Beyond Bond Lightener, which has up to 9 levels of lift with safety and protection in it for you so you can have confidence while you're lifting, which I think is a huge thing to have behind the chair, especially when you're trying to work fast. We did no tone, so this is pure raw lift, and we did a root shadow or root tap with 8N and 8NA equal parts with 9 volume developer mixed 1 to 1.5. And as always, if you guys ever want to see anything else from us, drop us a comment in the comment box and we'll maybe make it our next tutorial after something that you suggested. Make sure you like and subscribe for more videos, and we'll see you next time.